have people joining us. So let me go ahead. I'm not the one who usually does, oh, there's the record button. Someone else has been driving our webinar, so I basically know how to do it. But anyway, we're live on YouTube, yay, and I'm going to press the record button here. There we go. So welcome, everyone. This is Karen Richardson. I'm the Executive Director of the Virginia Society for Technology and Education. We're excited that you're joining us live this afternoon for a webinar that is on what seems to me potentially the most timeliest of topics, and that is, what are we doing about all those devices that are now no longer going to be part of the bricks and mortar, where evidently we have at least the perception of more control than when we send them out into the world with their devices. So I'm so excited to welcome Stephen Mirante here from FileWave. FileWave is a good friend of this season, has been for a long time, and so we're so excited that he has offered to give us some advice on this topic. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer some questions as well. Please feel free to use the text chat to introduce yourselves. Let us know if you're having any issues. We are a very small group, so probably as we get into Q&As, we might even let you turn your cameras and microphones on. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Stephen.
All right, thank you, Karen. I'm going to go ahead and shift over my screen here. So I'll let that run for a minute, and I will get this introductory page. So so thank you, Karen. So as you mentioned, my name is Stephen Mirante. I'm our VP of Education for FileWave. I've known Karen for years. I've been with FileWave for just over 9 years. And since 90% of our customer base is in education, this has been a crazy time, as everyone can understand. So we've been fully in the trenches. Even today, up until this meeting, I've been on 8 different district calls, trying to get everyone back to school as best as possible. And so what you see on the screen right now is kind of your core team. Aside from myself, you've got John Schuler, Bridget Shoemaker, Jerry Case, and Callie Wagasback, as she runs a lot of our partners throughout the region as well. So the presentation today, I've kind of got orchestrated into 2 parts. I'm going to go through just a very brief overview of who FileWave is, some key components on what some of the highlighted discussions have been over the course of these last months. And then I'm actually going to dive into the FileWave toolset a little bit to kind of give you a tutorial of what that looks like, how easy it truly is to centrally, see everything and somewhat manage it, right? So that's what we're here to do. So kind of getting things kicked off, if you may have not ever heard of FileWave, we actually have been around for quite some time. We just surpassed our 28th year in the industry. And so we kind of feel we know what we're doing. So we originally were born on the Apple side, go all the way back to the early 90s with Apple. But since then, we've definitely encompassed the other operating systems. So we do provide full endpoint management for all Mac, Windows, Apple iPads, Apple TVs, iPhones, Android devices, you name it, right? And then we actually have added an additional reach to those Chromebooks. And so this is really nice to, again, centrally see, first and foremost, all your devices from one place. And then again, we'll get into the weeds a little bit on what we can actually do when we talk about actual management. So as I did mention, FileWave has been around for a while. We are global, but more importantly for you, we are based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And so that's where our headquarters are for North America. And that is a very good point, because that is where our support is based. I know it always comes up as people get products and they want to know if they're going to be able to get help when they need it. So yes, we do have US-based support. I always do just clearly state, support for most of the US is going to be out of the Indianapolis office till about 7 p.m. Eastern. At that time, it just shifts over to our Los Angeles team. So all in all, never having to really worry about where you're calling into. All right. I do like to do a quick shout out to some of our partners. As you can see, we do work alongside a lot of partners, and they've been so crucial through all of this, just making sure that, again, schools are getting what they need very, very quickly, whether it be devices or resources to take care of those devices. We're all in this together, bottom line. Next is kind of the first phase of what have we been talking about, right? What's been going on? So these are the top 5 challenges. As we all know, there's many more than 5, but these are kind of the key 5 that my discussions have been having with CTOs, district leadership in general. Is number 1, I need to just connect to my devices when they're not in my district, right? That is, it doesn't matter the device type, Doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter where it is. I just need to be able to connect to it and be able to take care of it, right? I need to manage a growing and complex device environment. So as many districts may have had 1 or 2 device types, now they may have 3 or 4. And again, we want to bring that peace of mind to say, hey, look, I can still just keep everything in one, not have to worry about what's coming in. If it's grant money, if someone donates, cool. We've got a system to take care of it. Another big one is just simply tracking assets. And this goes all the way back to the initial shutdown, right? It's not always fun to kind of rehash the past, but as many schools did, and why I love education, is everybody came around the table and said, hey, we're going to take care of our students. Yep, we're shutting down, but we're going to continue learning. And we did the best of our ability to send out devices. All right, that's great. But the sore point about that and what we're working with schools now is the recovery is limited, right? And so we want to move on, right? We want to think about the future, and hey, now that we can send devices out in a moment's notice, we want to be able to recover those devices. So full tracking. My staff is just spending too much time troubleshooting all these different operating systems, right? As again, working in education, and even though FileWave has a presence in enterprise, it's so flip-flopped, right? I mean, in education, that's why I love you guys so much, is because you could have 30,000 students and your tech team still only 5 people. In enterprise, they could have 500 staff and they have 15 tech people. So always kudos to education. But that there said, you're getting these devices in, there's too many tools to manage them all. All right. So the bottom one there is that we've got that multiple tools, right, that are out there. How can we bring everything together, bring everything to one support team, FileWave, if we've got a problem with Microsoft, if we have a problem with our Apple devices, so on and so forth, all right? So just keeping things center. Now, first kind of level into the weed discussion here is these are the key components that we're digging into. So one thing I always try to preface with our end users, even in initial discussions, is yes, FileWave is cross-platform, and yes, FileWave does so many different things, all right? So from a peace of mind perspective, we want you to understand that FileWave is and always has been all-inclusive. So these aren't different modules that you have to acquire. These aren't plugins. These aren't different windows that you have to manage things within. We want to always bring that one all-inclusive tool set to our education customers to say, hey, look, I may need a better solution for Windows today. And hey, I've got something on MDM, but I'd love to bring everything on. But you don't have to do it all at one time. That's all right. So as you have FileWave and you start at that sore point potentially, where we can help is that you can always grow and not have to worry about how much is that going to cost me, right? So we always talk about things within FileWave in a life cycle perspective, right? What happens when we get the devices, when we send them out there, and then every which way else. All right. So as you can see, that's how we have it listed. We're first imaging or provisioning the devices, getting them ready. And then we're sending them loose, or as you should be able to. Let them go. Doesn't matter if it's on or off premise. That's fine with FileWave. From there, we're deploying software, applications, documents. We're scripting. We're sending updates. You name it. We want to give you the ability to send anything and everything through FileWave completely over the air. Doesn't matter if the device is on or off. You're good to go. Or better yet served for the end users, especially those students, is to create that end user experience, right? With that end user self-service kiosk. Again, across the majority of the devices, you now can create your own app portal to where your users can just go see what's readily available to them, approved by you administration, and they can still be on a lockdown device. They don't need admin rights to go get what they need. So just making that very easy. Patch management, ever so important with these devices being off premise. We as organizations need to make sure these devices are in compliance and our end users are secure. So with our direct integrations with Microsoft and Apple, we're able to bring that centerfold and be able to pull down those, which I'll show you in the live interface as well. Remote desktop, another way, another extension for you to service your end users in or out of the district, right? You now can be on a Windows machine and jump into those Apple Macs or vice versa, right? Whatever your preference. All right. This can be done inside the network or again, even outside the network, prompting those users as those support tickets may come in. So you can actually feel just like you're sitting in front of the machine, taking full control of it and doing what you need to do on the fly. Of course, device tracking, I already touched on briefly, but across all the different devices, especially those Chromebooks, as they're going out in mass quantities, just simply being able to track the devices one at a time or group, which I'll show you how that looks as well. The second part of FileWave is our true all-in-one inventory solution. So whether you've got an inventory solution that you love, that's great. We can actually integrate with it through our API, or maybe you need a better way to just bring everything right in front of you. So FileWave can act as that one true asset management tool, but we actually can start for those on-network devices. We can actually scan your different subnets and show you what's out there completely across the district, right? And you can actually scan different subnets at different times. The one really nice thing about this is that even though FileWave is managing specific endpoints, our inventory tool can be used for anything and everything found within the district, starting with the device discovery. So the device discovery scan is going to bring back, like I said, any network connected device, those smart boards, printers, access points themselves, even smart thermostats. You're going to be able to find these items and then again use FileWave to inventory it. So if you didn't have a good way to keep those things front and center, now you can. I'll dive into the asset management part, as that is a very intensive part of FileWave, because again, we can do so many reporting options. Following up with asset management, we go to license management. So again, keeping the devices or keeping track of the licensed content that's being purchased right now, whether it's directly coming from the volume purchase program through Apple or any other purchase licensed content. You can upload your purchase orders right into FileWave, easily see how many the district purchased, how many have been redeemed, and then do some additional reverse reporting and say, hey, who's got it, right? 6 months later or end of first semester, we need to do a self-check and say, hey, do these devices still need it before we go buy more? Let's just take it off and give it to the new devices that need it second semester. Also, for the Windows and Mac side, we're going to give you the ability to see how often the software that you're purchasing is being used. So this is crucial, especially as dollars are tight. No, not a different story there. So we want to make sure that you can have that visibility to say, hey, how many times has this program been launched? How long has it been run? Are we, do we need to renew it? Do we just need to pull it back off a specific group and give it to someone else? We want to give you that flexibility. The last two portions have been, again, very crucial in this specific time, and we actually added them to this specific presentation. So with self-healing, this is our first step into FileWave's main differentiators in our patented technology. So with self-healing, we know there's other protection programs out there that can fix devices or fix machines on the fly, but to do so, they have to reinstall those programs or whatever was damaged from the very beginning. So if it's a 20 gig program, they have to reinstall it all over again. With FileWave self-healing, we can actually just fix the files within that installation that broke, were changed, corrupted by a virus, you name it. Any change that happens that it wasn't supposed to, FileWave is going to automatically fix it. So by default, every 24 hours, FileWave is going to do a file-by-file check on your machines. No matter if it's tens of thousands, it's going to make sure these machines, the programs on them are working perfectly. Better yet, especially even this, because this was so important when we were in school, is that when you got a user that says, I can't open Office or whatever the program may be, they had to run down to the help desk and potentially got a re-image just because we didn't have time to figure out what the problem is, right? So now we can actually have the users do a prompt the self-heal just by rebooting the machine. So we actually bring that statement full circle by just, hey, have you restarted your machine? Upon reboot, by again, user initiated, FileWave will also do that file by file check. So there's a lot of different ways that the end user themselves can just go ahead and reprompt that self-heal and they're back in action. Next is the ability to auto resume interrupted deployments. Again, going back to the different ways to deploy content, right? MSIs, PKGs, executables, you name it. Great and easy ways to deploy them, but we sometimes fall into that realm of, hey, the device wasn't on, so it kicked back, or hey, a deployment has started, and then, oh, they shut their laptop lid down, or they lost Wi-Fi connectivity because they didn't know they were getting an installation, so it's really not their fault. Well, with FileWave, we actually have a built-in redundancy to where when that device shuts down or just the deployment becomes disconnected, FileWave just pauses and waits for that machine to come back online, no matter where it comes back online, no matter if it's a totally different network. FileWave is going to resume that installation exactly where it left off. All right. So we've really built in some really nice tools to, again, give peace of mind to the administrators so they know that, hey, I've deployed it through FileWave. It's not only going to be protected, but I know it's going to get there. All right. So again, really flexible. The question always comes about how can we do complete device management, cross-platform management right and correctly, right? The best. And that is all due to our partnerships, right? And that's why I openly and transparently put them up there. We are a direct partner with Apple, as I mentioned early on, Microsoft, Google, and even on the Google Android side. So we are full MDM, UEM, and even EMM, or whatever initials you've heard of. We comply with every single one of them from top to bottom. So one last thing I'm going to share before I kind of dive into the tool a little bit is how we actually make all this happen, right? What's that infrastructure look like? There too, we make this very, very flexible. So we have 3 different server main architecture options. We can do an on-prem virtual server, so VMware, Hyper-V, Linux, you name it. We can throw it on a Mac server or a laptop for that matter. Or yes, FileWave can be a hosted solution for you. So whatever your flavor, whatever your organization needs, it doesn't matter. Also, it doesn't matter if you have an on-prem server. If you love those virtual environments, you can still have that external communication. And we make all this possible through those little circles that you see there, hopefully, which is those boosters, right? The boosters are very low-level caching servers. If you're an Apple environment, you may be familiar with the Apple caching servers. Boosters have been around way longer than those. But again, they serve essentially the same part, right? So our boosters, like I said, very low-level pieces of hardware. They honestly can be thrown on an old tower sitting in a closet. They can all be different. They can be virtualized. They can be thrown on Mac Minis. You name it. It's good to go. Decent size hard drive, base operating system. That's a booster. You can have as many as you want. They're free. But then this is how you get that extension to the outside, right? Whether the devices are in or outside completely or a little bit in between, hopefully, you have full connectivity to these machines, again, no matter where they're located. Some other benefits with the boosters is that it allows you to throttle some bandwidth. So if you do have a large deployment going out to a specific group of devices, you can maybe throttle that up so it gets there faster and throttle the others down. Also, you can actually cache content on these boosters. So as you're doing new rollouts, potentially like right now, you can have all of your content organized and already put in place with the device groups, whether it be LDAP structures or even if you don't have Active Directory, that's fine too. But you can prompt the groups to already know what to have. So when a device shows up in that assigned group, it says, hey, FileWave, here I am, and automatically starts downloading all the content that's necessary, all put in place by you, the IT staff, which is really great. Also for back on network, you can actually utilize the boosters to do the over the network imaging. So that's really, really nice to send that image directly to those machines without having to go out there and physically touch it. Again, those are network connected devices, more so on the Windows side because we utilize DEP on the Apple side. All right, so we can definitely talk more about this if there is questions on the end, but I definitely, like I said, I wanted to jump into the tool set a little bit here. And I do have some team members on the line as well. If you do have questions, we'll definitely get those answered. All right, so the overall FileWave interface has always been very simple and straightforward. That's the goal, right? We want to make sure it's very efficient but effective. So I'm going to literally lay here in this left-hand side. The client's view is what I have selected now, and this is where all of your devices are going to reside. And you can go as far as organizing this however you see fit. You could start with that directory integration, right? We're going to completely mirror your Active Directory or even Open Directory if you've got that, even eDirectory if you've got that, if you've got all the way back there. We still support all of those. You can have multiple directories as well. You can go beyond that if once they're all here and just say, hey, I want to see all my devices in their platform, in their OS file. So I can see all my Windows machines, all my Macs, all my iPads, Android, so on. Now for Chrome, this is the one operating system that we do coexist with the Google Suite, all right, the Google Management Suite. What's nice and easy about this is that all you have to do is send the FileWave extension out through the GAC. Once that happens and it starts populating, FileWave is going to automatically replicate your OU structure. You don't have to do anything. The OUs are going to auto-populate, then your devices are going to start dropping into the OUs. You didn't have to do anything but send out that extension, and we'll walk you right through that. But once that's done, and I'm going to start on the Chrome devices because I know we've been busy with that, is what can we do in FileWave that we can or maybe not be able to do in the GAC? Well, number one is more of a better workflow. So we can actually create OUs right within FileWave. All right, so you can create all your OUs right here within FileWave. Any changes, any creations is also going to make effect in your GAC. So you don't have to do it both places, but just by right clicking, I can create a new OU. But also once I have those OUs created, changing a device can be a little bit of a task. Hopefully everybody can acknowledge that in the GAC. FileWave is just simply drag and drop. So now let's say I'm going to install 10,000 or 50,000 Chromebooks. I can come into FileWave, drop them into one OU, and then I can go in here and just say, hey, this one goes to this one goes to this one, boom, 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 go. It's just not that easy and straightforward through GAC all the time. Next is that when we double click a Chromebook, we're going to first give you one clean window for all the device details. So when it was enrolled, serial number, OEM version, last time checked in, IP address, all of that. And you can actually create some custom fields too if you want to see more of PO number, things like that. Chromebook data is actually something that you can customize and bring in. If there's something that you're always looking up on your Chromebooks, you can actually create the fields in here to where it'll auto-populate. Next is the users tab. Now, of course, I can see users in GAC, but what's the big number one drawback that we hear is that we can see the last user logged in. Well, that's not always good enough, especially if we're in a shared model or one device per family model in a virtual setting. So FileWave is actually going to give you a historical rundown at any given time through the life of this device. So at any given time, you can jump into this Chromebook and say who was on it last week, who was on it yesterday, and it's going to keep, like I said, that historical data. And then nice and easy, tracking, right? So with the click of a button, I can track that Chromebook. I can get its last known location, its current location, latitude, longitude, IP address. Ranging for tracking is anywhere from about 14 feet. I think worst case we've seen is about 400. So all in all, pretty accurate. We always joke with schools and say, we just can't give you the locker number, but we're going to get pretty darn close to help you hopefully recover that device, especially for the more expensive iPads and things like that. Also, you have this tools option up here. So we are in a Chromebook. So from FileWave, I can also deprovision my Chromebooks. Okay. So again, it's not necessarily something that we're trying to get rid of the GAC. We're just trying to streamline the approach, especially in that multi-platform mindset, right? I can come to one place, control every device that I've got for the most part, right? So I'll go back to my other operating system. So number one, we're going to replicate your OU structure for your Chromebooks. We're going to integrate with your directory structure of your choice. But then after that, maybe you look something similar like this. And thank you, San Antonio, for letting me borrow their structure. So you have your buildings, and then you have your classrooms built within. So in this math class, I've got some Windows and I have an Android device. So, all right, cool. What can I do from here? Well, just like we did on a Chromebook, I'm going to double click a Windows machine. I'm going to see every piece of content, whether it's software, documents, applications, you name it. I'm going to be able to see everything that exists on this machine, how it got there, if anything's still waiting to be installed, again, all by just clicking it. It's very similar device details screen. So again, here we're going to be able to see hard drive space, RAM, again, serial number, data, you got manufacturer there. Again, you can add custom fields like purchase order number if you want to see that right from here. All of these attributes you can create reports against. So if you want to see every device that's tracking in from this IP address, boom, create a report within FileWave, and it'll pull all those devices in right away. Very similar users tab, but very much the same. We're going to continue that historical data rundown for you. Policies for FileWave is going to be a little different than group policy. Our policies are more for kind of steering the direction of the client, right? So if their state testing is always a big one, we can actually steer the FileWave client away from checking in during different periods of time. So it's a, hey, FileWave, this device doesn't check in for the next 2 weeks. No changes, no matter what we do across the board. You can put that in there. And then yes, even on a Windows machine, I can dive in and check that device. And this is kind of a funny one because this is one of my engineers' Windows machines, because this is exactly how we're living right now. It's not necessarily, is the device still in the district? It's like, are we in the right county? Is the device isn't in the right county? Because if it's not, maybe that's the first red flag. Now, again, because I'm on a Windows machine, I also have that tools bar, but I've got a couple options here. That's how quickly I can get into my remote desktop. No hoops to jump through. I can jump in, just take full control of that device. Again, like I'm sitting in front of it, do what I need to do on the fly. For on-district devices, so on-prem labs, things like that, you as administrators can go ahead and take full control of those devices without being prompted. But of course, for all the security policies and good reason, any device that leaves the district, you will need to prompt that user and they will need to accept you in. All right. So again, the remote desktop functionality can also be turned off for other administrators. Maybe it's only needed for your super users, as we call it. You also see that remote wipe option. I'm not going to do this one or I'll get a phone call here in a few seconds. But you can completely remote wipe a device. This being a Windows machine, it would revert it all the way back to the blue screen of death. All right. So a lot of functionality by all I did was double click a machine. Now I can also right click that machine and get all of those access points as well. But this is really cool too, is that I can, as long as all these are tracked, because you can turn off tracking as well, depending on your school district's policies. Let me do this. And I can say show locations. So now it's going to show me all the locations of all my tracked devices. So we could say, oh, hey, well, this might be a problem, right? Because this engineer is in Texas, and we've got a couple devices not where they should be, right? So you can see multiple devices, however you need to get access to that very, very quickly. All right, so let me jump into an Apple device. Again, we'll kind of do this one a little bit faster because, again, the layout is very much the same, but on purpose, right? We want you to see how it's easy just to learn one system and not have to worry about what operating system that you may be touching. So this is really nice. Again, all the software, all the applications, everything that's installed on the device, again, the device details. Since we're now on an Apple device, we're also going to pull in all the Apple commands. So every command that's been sent to this device, all the profiles that you've installed, again, that users tab, policies because it's a Mac, and then a position map, right? So again, we're on a Mac. Also, because of Mac, I can jump in remote desktop right from with there. And just as a reminder, I can be on a Windows machine and jump into a Mac or a Mac onto Windows. Doesn't matter with us. And then yes, that remote wipe option. Now quickly shifting over to an iPad. All right, let me get one that is check in. All right, cool. So you can see a lot more options here, again, because we're pulling in those Apple commands. So again, your file set status is where all your content, device details, Apple commands that have been sent, all my managed apps through VPP, installed apps in general. If we've deployed documents, all the profiles that I've installed, and yes, even on an iPad, I can easily track that device and make sure it's where it's supposed to be. Now you do have the remote wipe option for the majority of all the devices, but as we know, if for those Apple institutions, or if you just even have just a spattering of them, remote wipe really should be your last effort, right? And because of the different protocols Apple has put in place to ping the device, put it into lock mode, especially if we're using the device enrollment program. We want to make sure that we're taking all of those steps to safely recover that device. All right. So next screen is file sets. Now file sets is just the simple terminology for FileWave's payloads, right? So again, there's MSIs, there's PKGs, there's file sets. All right, so there's 9 different types of file sets. Number 1, app and folder. So you can jump right into a location that you have known that you've got things stored. Our empties file set is for scripting. So we do support all iterations of scripting. So if you're a scripter like some of our engineers, this is really great. Importing, if you know the destination of a current piece of content, you can go grab it. Software updates, again, just a reminder, this is where our first integration with directly with Microsoft and with Apple. I can see all my Windows updates, all my Mac updates, all my iOS and Apple TV updates from one place. I don't need an additional SUS server or update server. FileWave's got me covered, okay? Now, one thing I always like to play with is that you can, if you quickly noticed, I have this red check mark, all right? So if I uncheck that, since I'm on a Windows device, there's 16,000 updates available for the Windows platform right now. It's crazy. But because we have a smart, intelligent client sitting on that device, you can check this box, and FileWave is going to be smart enough to just show you, the administrator, what you need to worry about, right? What machines are asking for what. If I touch one, it'll actually drill down and tell me the exact machine that is actually asking for it. From here, I can decide to do a couple different things. I can say, hey, you know what? Go ahead and give it to them. Just approve it. And by the way, it works. Just approve it for every other machine that pops up that says they need it. Or we can be a little bit more structured. So once I find an update, and I'm going to skip around here for a minute, I can actually go down here, and before it goes out, I can say, hey, you know what? FileWave, go ahead and deploy it to the device right now, but don't activate it until Friday. Better yet, because we all know our users listen when we say, hey, sent you something, can you reboot your system for me? A week later, still not done. But now we know, again, with the security stuff that's going on, if there comes out that crucial security update or patch, you can now force reboot machines. You can say, hey, end users, guess what? We've sent out a district-wide update. We're going to give everybody a full week and a half to reboot their machines on their own. But come 8/14 at 3:31 p.m., those machines are going to automatically reboot. There's no more delaying from the end user standpoint. We've got to make sure as an organization we remain in compliance. All right. So we're just going to make sure you get that ability. Or yes, even for an update, you can make optional for an end user just by putting it into their kiosk. You can say, hey, you know what, FileWave, don't deploy it. Just put it in their end user kiosk and let the end user go get it when they're ready. All right. So going back up to file sets, profile. So this is Profile Manager. For those organizations, again, that are using or managing Apple devices, this is probably going to feel very much at home. And that's the point, right? We did not need to recreate the wheel. If you are using a competitive product, that's okay, right? But the cool thing about that is that we've done so many different transitions from all shapes and sizes of organizations, is that we can actually export your profiles from that current MDM and upload them into FileWave to save you that step during that transition. So we've been especially busy with this. But this, again, is one place where you're going to come to do all of your profile builds. And I always like to make note that you see iOS 7, just to kind of share even how deep we go with Apple, right? We just had to push off iOS 6. So we are going to continue to support those legacy models if they're still residing. Now, again, based on the iOS type or OS type is going to determine what Apple functionalities were made available back then, right? For those of you that have been using Apple devices for quite some time, you know, probably the biggest change didn't happen until about 9.3, when a lot of the security settings and supervision and stuff like that happened. So it was really nice. Let me get out of here real quick. Next is a direct access to the Apple App Store. Now, this is still available because we have those legacy device, we have the legacy device support still, but less used for those organizations that have Apple School Manager up and running, completely utilizing the volume purchase program, because now that's going to directly sync with FileWave as well. Now, or if you've got a really quick MSI or PKG that you want to get out, great, go do it, grab it, go. But then we have our file set magic. So this is, again, where we're going to give you that more granular control beyond an MSI PKG. And let me give you an example of what that looks like. So I'm going to grab, let's see what he's got in here. We'll just grab this one. So going beyond just a normal MSI or PKG, we can actually, we actually deploy things at what we say the file level. And what that means is, just so you can see here, from just a double click of that program, I can see every single file that exists within that installation. This is really nice if you need to go in and maybe alter just or customize. If you're a customizer, or I always talk about Office, right? Or a creative suite, those bigger, larger deployments that can be heavy, but maybe you want to take some of the things away. Office is one, believe it or not, to where some people say, hey, look, they need Word, they need Excel, they don't need PowerPoint. All right, so they can actually go in here, you can actually go in here and just remove the PowerPoint section and then update FileWave. If Office already exists on those machines, all FileWave has to do is go out and reach and remove the PowerPoint files. We don't have to reinstall the entire program again. So that's part of our patented technology, to have this file level approach. But as you can see here, as I've mentioned self-healing at the beginning, this is where we can protect every single file or selective ones that you see fit, right? Because what happens most of the time, right? We've got a 10, 15, 20 gig program that we've sent out. And then let's just say this 1.1 meg file, this executable, became corrupt by a virus. The system doesn't work. The program doesn't work. Well, you don't want to have to redeploy 10 gigs again. FileWave will actually just have to plug back in that 1.1 meg, making things very, very easy. All right. All right. So moving on here, checking time. Okay. Associations. So that's the next tab. So association is simply where the rubber meets the road. So this has got your client view, your file sets view. And so again, if you need to do a mass update to all my Windows machines, like everybody gets this patch, I can go ahead and drop it onto my all Windows group, or I can go ahead and say, hey, you know what? I know that little Timmy or Susie's device in their math class needs it specifically. I can go ahead and drop it on one device. All right. However you need to do that, you can do it. And once you make that association, if I let go of this, it's not just going to happen. You got that fail safe. Oh, it wasn't supposed to go there. But even more important, that's how we get to that scheduling that I kind of touched on earlier. From FileWave, going a little bit more in depth with the scheduling tool, if you didn't catch on before, is that you can be completely proactive with your deployments. You can say, hey, FileWave, start it today. Don't activate it till next week. Hey, if it is an optional, this is an update. That's why it's not able to be inactive. But hey, maybe we just want to hide it. We don't want to remove it for like state testing, but we don't want users to see it on their machines anymore. Furthermore, you can actually say, hey, you know what? I know the machines that are going to need said program for the first 3 months of the year, but I know that they're not going to need it past that. So I can come in here and say, all right, FileWave, go ahead and remove this specific program off these devices on October 30th, right? So FileWave is going to go out there, grab that content, hold on to it, or you can actually schedule on the other side it to be installed on totally different devices. And then there's that reboot deadline. And again, just a reminder here to recap, the kiosk association just says, hey, I want to make it optional to my end users, right? I want them to just be able to see what's made available to them and they can go grab it on their own, once again, without ever having administrative rights. Now we do have an imaging component, which is really nice. So we do support Windows imaging. We do also support legacy Mac imaging. So again, as of Sierra, imaging is dead, and we do fully comply with Apple's protocols in the device enrollment program. So, but if you do have any of the older Macs that are pre-Sierra, we can still image those. But again, Windows imaging is still very much alive. And the benefit of having an imaging tool running alongside all of these different deployment options is that we can actually make a thin image instead of having to do that really large, perfect image. That's wrong tomorrow, unfortunately. Hopefully you guys can understand that too. So you can see this average image is 3.7 gig, easy enough to get out and go. Why? Because then again, FileWave can deploy all my drivers, all my software, all my updates, you name it. FileWave can be that deployment engine after the fact. Classroom is simply for our connection for Apple Classroom. So again, for you Apple users, if you are utilizing the Apple Classroom function, this is where your MDM is going to be very important to coincide. Also, one benefit is that with every FileWave customer gets a free membership to Clever. All right, so you may be already using Clever, which is really nice, but all of the users that may not have a great way to integrate or get your SIS information into Apple Classroom, FileWave can be that solution for you as well. Now, iOS inventory tab is just showing a secondary tab. And again, as I mentioned, this is one of my engineers' servers. So it looks like this one he's got built to just show him, hey, I want to keep an eye on devices that haven't checked in a period of time. So this one says, uh-oh, it hasn't checked in since last year. That's a major problem. So usually we would catch that before that, right? And so you can set up those notifications as you see fit. Talking about notifications or last checked in, that was one of the big points, again, starting in March when everything went virtual in a lot of different areas, is that, again, congrats to doing everything you needed to get devices and students learning. But what happened is that for my kids' school, we said, hey, Wednesday to Thursday was the virtual learning days at the district. So we just said, okay. Well, where districts and non-technical administrators found a very good use for that last checked in note was to say, hey, Susie or Timmy hasn't checked in the course of 4 days, maybe their family needs to go on the top of the list to be checked in on. Are we having a technical problem? Or is there something else that, where can we get you back into virtual learning? So again, reporting can be used in an array of different options, not just in IT. Now, license management, as I also mentioned, this is just your easy, seamless way to see every piece of license content centrally. All right. So again, if you're using the volume purchase program with Apple, all of these codes are going to be automatically found within FileWave. Then you can see how many you've purchased, how many have been redeemed. We use a very simple green, yellow, red method, right? Why complicate it? So green, you're good. Yellow, you're getting out of, you're approaching that out of compliance. Red, you're out. You as an organization get to set those parameters, okay? We're going to give you the tools to remain in compliance, but you are responsible for setting those, because we want you to have the flexibility too for even free software, right? Free licensed content. It's sometimes a good idea to at least know what we have and where it is. And again, as I mentioned, you can also do reverse reporting to find out where those actual installed copies are. Now, the boosters tab is, again, as I mentioned, those boosters are those low-level caching servers. The boosters are also how we enable the device discovery. And so you've got, he's actually on the device discovery tab here. So this is basically a scan that he brought back. And so it's bringing back everything, even non-managed items, right into FileWave. And then I can decide how I want to report on those. Other than that, you can get your device, you can get your health of the actual booster details in general, how it was set up. One thing I forgot to mention about the boosters, because again, you can have as many as you want, is that you can actually assign devices to specific boosters. So, if you got high school booster, middle school, or if you got 15 high schools or elementaries, you name it, you can say, hey, look, this cluster of devices, 10, 100, 1,000, 2,500, you can say, hey, look, you get this booster. So all your connection, all of your communications are coming from that booster instead of your main server, keeping your wide area network traffic to a bare minimum. All right. The last portion of FileWave is our inventory. All right. So as I mentioned, the inventory part of FileWave is very intensive. It's really limitless to what you can do with it. There's over 3,000 built-in fields that you can pull from. All right. And I'm just going to grab some here. So you can just, it's all drag and drop. Once you find out what you want to create a report on or an inventory report on, you can see here, you can set your variables, what matters to you based on what you're searching for. And once again, if you can't find it in here, you can add custom fields. So we want to make that easily. You can have as many custom fields as you want if you weren't now able to find it in the menu. Now, any user that gets their hands on FileWave day one, we're going to give you some examples, which is all what you see here. These come standard, and then you can delete them as you get used to it or create your own. So I just want to see all my Windows machines. All right, cool. Hey, I've got a couple of Windows 7 machines still out there. Maybe we need to get them up to date. 1012 Sierra, all those machines are just all Mac devices, right? All iOS, depending on version. All mobile in general. It doesn't matter if it's iOS, doesn't matter if it's Chrome, doesn't matter if it's Android. You can see it from here. Show me all the devices that have Creative Suite. Who's got my Windows copies? All the way down to more customizable ones, right? Show me all my machines with less than 8 gigs of RAM, right? Maybe we need to keep an eye on that. Show me all the devices that are running out of hard drive space, right? Why? Or what do we got to do? Do we need to remove content remotely? Because we can do that with FileWave. Or did they install things somehow and they weren't supposed to? We do also have an integration with Haze Software, a really great company that also enables the help desk system as well as the barcode scanning. So we do have integrations with some of those types of partners to where we can, again, centralize the reporting and data that you see fit. So again, FileWave can be used in an array of different options. We had 2 calls just today on just simply inventory, right? They just needed to get a good handle on what's out there, and that's great. Now they can look back and as they grow with FileWave, know that, hey, they can be my deployment solution, my remote desktop solution, my patch solution. So that's really again, I know I've said it multiple times, but the overall peace of mind that we want to bring to districts, that's what we're here for. That's why I love working for FileWave, is that we truly listen to our end users. We try to build what you want or what's coming next rather than what report has come out saying what's next. we're listening to you. We're trying to continue the roadmap. All right. As for the roadmap goes with FileWave, I am always transparent about that. Is there's a lot cooking. So through 2020, we've got major updates coming through to the web UI, as well as an analytic dashboard. So again, even non-technical administrators can get a good bird's eye view of what's going on, what devices are where, last checked in date, just from a nice, pretty screen, right? So we want to make that accessible as well. Furthermore, long-term, we're working on a true cross-platform classroom tool. Now, I say that patiently. Why? Because we acknowledge, especially working in education in all these years, we're not recreating the wheel when we say classroom management, but there's not one true cross-platform, multi-platform classroom tool that can adhere to an all-in-one. And so that's what we're striving for, and that's why we're taking every pace possible. We are actually interviewing districts all the time, customers and even non-customers that say, hey, what do you want to see when this is released? And we're well on our way. We're way past that. But that is something, if you are interested in maybe sharing your feedback on what you've seen work, what you've seen not work, how your district could really utilize something, just, hey, it shouldn't matter if my classroom has Android devices or iPads or Chromebooks. My teacher is empowered to say, hey, look, that's cool. I get the whole roster. So we've got a lot of things happening at FileWave. It's very, very exciting. And we'll continue to keep people up to date. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and check real quick this. It looks like I had, oops, move this over here. All right, cool. All right. So no, I will kind of open it up, Karen. I know, we definitely got it done within an hour, which is definitely okay. No harm there. I guess I will do one last, just kind of close up here on kind of the what next, what are the next options with FileWave, okay? Because we know we're right up against going back to school, right? But we want to also say, hey, look, that's nothing new to FileWave. We love deadlines. And it doesn't mean, even if you're starting school next week, it doesn't mean we can't help you now. All right. So every organization getting set up and getting started is pretty straightforward. And we actually dedicate an engineer to you throughout that process, even before you purchase FileWave. And I know I don't like talking about sales and things like that, but hey, it's the real world here. But that's the peace of mind, again, we give education to say, hey, look, we know budgets aren't always in your favor. We don't know when it's going to be available. FileWave is a CARES Act funded product, which is awesome. We were so excited to be qualified as that. And so that's given districts the ability to grab FileWave as a tool set and worry about payment later, right? Let's make sure these devices are enrolled so we can get them set loose, track them, get them content, update them, full control of them. And no matter what happens, no matter if we're virtual, no matter if we're face-to-face or a hybrid, right? And we're seeing that hit and miss all over the place. So you get a dedicated team to you, as I mentioned at the very front of it. You've got that team dedicated to you as well as myself. And so we'll help you from a one-on-one discovery call, go through a much more in-depth demonstration, kind of go through that cost analysis on, hey, what are we looking at? What do you have now? And then we'll guide you all through the setup. And for those of you that were not maybe on right at the beginning of the call, I just, again, want to reiterate on FileWave being all-inclusive. So not only is the product all built in, we do include an unlimited support model, all right? So you don't run out of support. You don't get charged for cases and things like that. You can call, email, put in a ticket, whatever way you need to contact them, you're good to go. As licensing comes up, we have two very straightforward licensing models for education, which is awesome. We have the per endpoint licensing model, which we can do multiple years or annually, or we just have a simple district site license. And the site license is a true site license. So organizations, districts can say, hey, look, here's my flat cost for FileWave. I could have 1,000 students and 5,000 devices, or 250,000 students and 500,000 devices, and my cost doesn't change. And so this really, again, gives the district peace of mind, the IT staff peace of mind to say, hey, look, I don't care if I'm going to be handed 5 iPads. Thank you. I don't have to go run to my vendor and get 5 MDM licenses or, Chromebooks, Windows machines, Android, you name it. You're good to go. And so whatever devices may be there now, maybe coming in next year, we're able to future-proof that overall deployment. All right. So I'll let this kind of sit here. Karen, if you want to take back over, I'll kind of hand it over to you. And
good, thanks. I've pointed out to people here, I did a little intro out, and of course, County. Loudoun County has 100,000 educators, kids, everybody, but that's, I think, Richmond City maybe size, and Loudoun County or Fairfax County, 250,000 people, like running small countries almost. So this is amazing. I'm thinking you could probably help me find some of the stuff on my Google Drive. But being able to sort of locate and track and keep track of these things would be a very helpful thing. So folks in the room, I apologize, I live out in the country, so I got booted out of the room. I learned to dial in via my phone, so I always have audio, but we're getting started. So,
no problem.
Questions? This has been great information.
And I apologize, I didn't mention that we do have already a great following across the state, Newport News, Rockingham, Richmond. So there's plenty more, Campbell County. There's so many, and I apologize. Yeah, to not remember them all, but yeah, so we've got plenty of great partners throughout the state that would be happy to kind of share their successes and where they've come and go. Most of which are multi-platform environments, but it didn't mean that they started there, right? Richmond is a great story to where we came in on the Windows side and they grew all the way through.
And that's good to know too. I think, Visti's part of the virtual Virginia expansion. The online school is out. And we used to be, when I first came on the scene, very much local control. Everybody kind of did their own thing. And I think as technology becomes more complicated and we do have these kinds of management issues, there has been much more of an opening for more widespread things going on in the state, so that you have support both from the company, but also the guy next door you can call and say, hey, what are you doing? How are you handling this? That kind of thing. Because you give a great platform, but there's probably lots of decisions people make how to make it work and how to get run and so on and so forth. So,
right.
Well, I am, good. Thank you so much, but share some more. That I've been fascinated watching all of this. I can't imagine you I think it's 150 in industry, one tech person to 50 devices. How would schools do that? I mean, again, you look at Fairfax County, they've probably got at least 150 devices across school division. You've got one guy. So it occurred to me that this is sort of 3 guys added into your team, or 3 girls added into your team as well.
Yeah, the best compliment is, aside from, hey, your product's really cool and it works, the best compliment that I've received, and it's the one thing I strive for in any customer, is that, hey, you made me feel like 10 people. That's our goal. Because we know IT teams are not there. So if our tool can make you feel, as it should, like multiple people, we've done our job, right? Because we want to give you the ability to not have to go out and physically touch machines. We want to allow you to say, hey, look, I got it. I can see them all right here, and we're good to go.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much. Last chance, folks. I will tell you, for those participating, I just put up a certificate on the website as part of the blog post for this event. We'll also get a recording up, and it will be included in that as well. We'll put the recordings for folks so they can watch them again or on their own time, or share with colleagues or otherwise. So thanks everybody for attending. Thanks Stephen and your team as well. And happy joy, I guess is how thanks everybody.
Right. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, bye-bye. I'll see everyone soon.
See ya.